Call the Thursday, April 9th City Commission meeting to order. First item on the agenda would be the March 26th minutes. Any changes?
None.
Stand as written. I don't believe there was any citizen comments that came in via the web. Not yet. Maybe next week. For consent agenda. Next item on the agenda, new business. Bickerschmidt Sports Complex Southwest Quad Playground Shelter Award a bid.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jeff Boyle, Director of Parks. And I am here to talk about the playground shelter at the on the Southwest Quad at the Bickerschmidt Sports Complex. You may recall in 2018 the City Commission approved a new playground with a playground shelter over the top of it. That bid was approved and began construction in the early spring of 2019. This is a picture of the part of the playground anyway, and then the structure over the top. The fabric is laying on the ground to the left, on the left-hand side of the picture, and the poles are all bent. So the August 13th storm really did a number on it. Another picture for you to look at from a little bit different view. We did have some pretty heavy winds out there. This is not the only structure that got hit and received damage, but I believe that it's time to maybe reconsider what we're doing here as far as the type of playground shelters that we're using at these facilities. These things, the fabric doesn't hold up as the years go by. This one in particular just didn't seem to have the make and quality of some of the ones we had built several years ago. So I think it's time to maybe reevaluate what we're doing here. So we started looking around, asking different questions about what can we do over the top of this playground to protect the kids from foul balls and provide a little bit of shade. And we decided that after visiting with several different companies that either a wood framed structure or a metal framed structure would be our best bet out there. We did take bids on, it was a proposal, request for proposal. Majority of the folks bid a wooden framed structure with metal roof. This was the low bid from QSI, $32,560. This was the second low bid from QSI, and it has the 4-foot sheathed corners on each corner. Provides a little more structural integrity, keeps the building from wanting to twist in the wind. This would be our desired structure for that reason. It's actually rated 125 mile an hour. For 125 mile an hour winds, as opposed to 115 on the other ones. So, from a financial standpoint, this is the footprint of it, 56 by 40. Here's the bids that came in. Oh, as we're looking at these, question is, how do we pay for it? Well, during this process, the city hadn't actually accepted the final product from the contractor. So we were still holding $2,100, and they were doing some punch list items for us before we were going to pay them that remainder. And then the storm hit, and the subcontractor of the contractor decided not to cooperate very well. So basically, they said that we should have went out at 11 o'clock at night before the storm hit and removed the fabric structure from the top. That's next to impossible without scissor lifts and all those sort of things. So, and it's just, quite honestly, I've never heard of such a thing in my life. But we got the insurance company involved. Riggs Recreation went to bat for us. In the end, the subcontractor did not assist in any way. Riggs Recreation stepped up and said, we won't charge you the remaining $2,100 on the purchase order. We'll also write you a check for $5,575 to be put towards a new structure. And then the insurance company stepped in and paid the remainder. So we actually have funds for about half the project in the bank right now. I mentioned the $2,100, the check for $5,575, and then the insurance company came through with $95.93. So we have $17,268.91 to work with. Now those are in two different accounts. The 2,100 went back into special parks, which is where the purchase order was originally came from. And then the remaining money, $15,168.91, was put into the park improvement fund. So there's two different funds there that we're dealing with on those monies. The remainder of the project, I would recommend that we just use general fund money out of the Bickel-Schmidt Sports Complex budget. We've identified some savings in that budget to cover these costs. The amount we'd need from that budget is $16,901.09, and that would be enough to pay for option 2 that you see here from QSI. Again, there are funds in there that we're going to be able to save, and I'm confident, extremely confident, that we'll have enough money in that budget to cover this. If you approve, this is the action that we would request.
I'll make a motion that we approve option number 2 from Quality Structures LLC, an amount of $34,170, with funding coming from Special Parks, an amount of $2,100, $15,168.91 from Park Improvement Fund, and $16,901.09 from the 2020 Bickel-Schmidt Sports Complex budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Jeff, so they've done quite a bit of work for us in the city in the past.
Yes, we have several other shelters around town.
And I know I asked this last week, but you believe down the road, if we chose to do some of these over the stands for shade, it's a possibility we could make it look all the same?
Yes, it'd be identical. We could do it easily, make it look just like what we have.
I just think that's something that should be on our radar for the future. Definitely not now, it's not a priority, but I think if we could match it in the end, I think
I totally
look
agree
really
with
nice.
that. Totally agree. Also, if I could add, Commissioner Mellick asked about the warranty last week at the work session. The posts are actually a 60-year warranty. I think I mentioned 40 years last year. The 40-year warranty is on the metal and paint. And they're the paint and metal is a limited, as you can probably expect. It basically just covers cracks, checks, and loose adhesion. So it wouldn't cover things like fading, chalking, those sort of things. But I think it's we have not had any issues with these at all since we started putting them up. So I think overall we'll have a very long-term structure here.
That's great.
What color are you thinking of?
We are going to match whatever's on the southwest quad. We currently have red awnings over the concession. There's a yellow awning behind the concession. And then we have a lot of green and whites out there as well. So I basically in the RFP I put out, we will decide that at the time that we sign the purchase order and make everything happen. So I really would like to look at that a little bit harder. We haven't actually sat down and chose colors yet.
I'd like to see you continue using different colors. I think it's kind of fun in a park area, and if you've got a yellow, if you've got one yellow, maybe another yellow would be good.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me. Sean's closing his eyes and he can't see it. So
Pink?
We have green
Pink would be
structures
good.
out there too. I wasn't thinking about the other playground has a green top on it. So yeah, those are all things I think we should look at and try to make sure that we're matching.
Well, I do for aesthetics. I do like it, but I just think if we're gonna playgrounds, if we eventually would do it over the stands, wouldn't it all be matching? Wouldn't you? I mean, we're a long ways away from that, so it's not.
The playground colors. If we back up here, they're kind of a mirage of colors, honestly.
Yeah.
So I think it leaves it open to open for discussion on what would work best.
does one color fade less than another?
Not according to literature, but I look at the pool roof. That was a really bright blue when that facility first opened, and it is really kind of chalked and gone to a really light blue color.
I know a lot of the different sports complexes I've been to. A lot of them are like a green and beige, kind of like I guess the equipment right there that you see. I was thinking Great Bend was white and green, but I can't remember. But we'll figure that out.
And you did say these can be
hooked up to electricity if we need them for lights. And
Yeah, we're actually going to be doing that as part of the project because electricity's right there, and yeah, we'd like to have 2 LEDs on each end that kind of sitting at angles where it covers the whole unit on both sides and the ends. So
And there's not a need for netting.
no netting. It does have a 4-foot skirting around the top, and last week we talked about the fact that the trajectory of those balls typically they're not line drives because they got to get up over the backstop to leave the ball field. So by the time they're coming in, the trajectory is such where it really isn't that necessary.
Anything else? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Next item on the agenda, Public Works Generator Award of Bid.
Good evening, Jesse Grower, Director of Public Works. A couple more awarded bids to discuss with you this evening. And the first one here is for a replacement generator at the Public Works facility. So the current generator was purchased in '99. It was a used generator purchased just prior to the Y2K proposed event that never really came to be. But we were prepared regardless. It is a 1978 model military surplus generator. Here's a picture of the current generator that's sitting there today. So it is 42 years old, as I mentioned, and I know last week we had a question about the number of hours on the generator. The current gauge does show just over 900 hours, but the gauge has been replaced. It does not have the original gauge in there any longer. And so there's really no way of knowing the total hours on it other than what's showing there currently. The generator does run the entire Public Works facility during power outages. And this current unit does also require manual startup, so a staff person does have to be present to start the unit in the event it is needed. The new one proposed will have an automatic transfer switch that will automatically start the unit whenever backup power might be called for. So pictured here is the proposed generator with the weather-tight enclosure. And as you're coming or leaving City Hall, if you look right behind City Hall, it's actually the same generator that's sitting right behind our building, same brand, same style, same look as what powers this building when it's needed. This is the same generator, just with the weather enclosure removed. It is a diesel motor with an onboard fuel tank. It does have a capacity to run the generator with load for a full 24 hours. I believe it's a 133-gallon capacity fuel tank. There is a 2-year, 2,000-hour warranty included. It's likely we will reach the 2 years long before we reach the 2,000 hours. So we're hoping we don't need it that often. Annual testing and maintenance will be performed by separate contract, as we do for all city-owned generators currently. We had 3 bidders. All bidders are licensed electricians with the City of Hayes. The low bid was from Dawn's Electric and Rewind in the amount of $29,977. If awarded, there is about a 10 to 12 week lead time to get the generator here, unless there be further delays due to the any COVID-19 issues. We had, in the 2020 budget, we did budget $35,500, and so we're just a little over $5,500 under budget for this particular generator. And your options would be to award the bid as recommended, or provide staff other direction, and this would be the action requested. Any questions?
I move we award the bid for the purchase of a new Kohler Model 60RE0ZK generator from John's Electric and Rewind Inc. in the amount of $29,977 to be funded out of the new equipment reserve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any comments?
I got a comment here because I got some follow-up from Toby on some question I asked. So on yours, this says new equipment reserve, but on an email you sent was from vehicle and equipment reserve. Is that one and the same, or?
It is one and the same, right? It's we purchase all our vehicles, large equipment like this, out of the new equipment reserve.
And essentially, without the purchase, though, it doesn't necessarily say by going back in the general fund, or it would stay within that line item and need to be used from that line item.
Right. Basically, it kind of boils down to how that works is, when we purchase vehicles or equipment, from day one, we take possession of it. We start putting money for replacement into that fund. And so by the time we're ready to replace it, whether that's we have a life expectancy depending on the type of equipment it is, whether it be 10 years, 15, or 20 years, whatever that is, by the time the end of life of that equipment comes, we have the money in that account. And so, as you mentioned, it's different than general fund. If we weren't going to buy this as budgeted, we couldn't use that for employee benefits or other general fund items that would have to be used for equipment, vehicles, that sort of thing. So,
You did say last week you were going to sell the old one on Purple Wave or something.
correct.
Do we have any idea approximately what we could get for it?
I actually looked a little bit today on Purple Wave, and I didn't see any in the short time I looked. I know last year we sold, it was a much larger generator, but the older wastewater treatment plant generator, I believe it sold for about $13,000, which we were very pleased with for that unit. If we can get, I'm going to throw out $1,500 or $2,000 would, I think we'd be pleased with whatever we can get out of it.
So going back to Commissioner Burgess' question, does that, whatever we get out of it, does that go back into new equipment reserve fund?
Is that right, Kim? Yes, it is.
Well, so on equipment vehicles, as you said, we purchase it and then we start putting money aside to replace it.
Mhm.
For a generator in this capacity, it should last for 60 years probably, right? 40 years maybe, like this one. Do we do the same thing with generator purchases where?
We do, and most of them, we determine a life expectancy of them. Most generators like this, I think, even though we may have it longer, we typically put like the 20-year replacement on this. So by year 20, we have all the money set aside for replacement. Now, we might not replace it in year 20. We might replace it in year 21 or 22 or 28 or 32. Sometimes there's not a need to replace it, but some of these depends on the equipment. Some of it is more critical than others, and we don't want to take a chance, especially if there's other factors that come into play, such as this one where the parts are obsolete. It's got an old Alice Chalmers combine motor on it that actually runs this generator. And back in the day, it was fantastic, and you could go to your local shop and get parts. Well, that's not the case anymore. So that also factors into replacement when that time comes. So.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Jesse. Next item on the agenda, 2020 sidewalk projects award a bid.
Okay, this item is to discuss some sidewalk replacements or sidewalk placement in certain areas. That was part of the 2020 special highway projects. So just a little recap. You've seen this slide before a time or two earlier this year. And this recaps the various special highway funds. This slide shows how staff recommended spending those funds budgeted in special highway when we came to you back in December of 2019 and then back again in February of 2020 when we awarded special highway projects. Note the highlighted area here where we did have $51,200 set aside for sidewalk, and of that $5,000 of that was set aside for the residential and commercial sidewalk replacement program. So this slide too you've seen before. A lot of information on here, but I want to focus on the highlighted areas. The highlighted sections show the funds budgeted for sidewalk. Again, I mentioned the 51.2. I also want to point out that after all this, including the sidewalk program, there's still approximately $81,000 left in the fund to be used for any unforeseen expenditures for all of the special highway projects that are occurring this year. I think there's a total of 16 projects in all. So we did have 4 different areas of sidewalk, 4 different projects identified and bid out. So these are the 4 project locations that were bid. projects 1 and 3 on the left side of your screen there are the largest of the 2 projects. In the following slides, I'll kind of break down each of the 4 projects in a little bit more detail. So project 1, up in the northwest part of town, so that's on West 27th Street near Augusta. There's a stretch of sidewalk you can see here, or stretch without sidewalk that we would want to place. There's some on the other side of Augusta also. And then project 2 was East 27th near Chatola. You can see the obvious gap there in the sidewalk along that stretch. The other 2 projects, the first one was what we're calling project 3, was 300 block of Elm Street and a section of Elm Street a little bit further south as it joins up with Ash, just across from Lewis Field. So that would complete the sidewalk along the entire stretch of Elm down by Lewis Field and the university. And then project 4, there's 4 residential segments along Canterbury between 17th and 21st that don't have sidewalk either. So those are the 4 projects that we put out for bid. We did receive bids from 3 different contractors, and bids were open March 17th of 2020. Low bids here are shown in red. You can see we had 1 low bid from Dustin Hines Construction, and the other low bids were from Morgan Brothers. Total of all the bids was $66,755.80, and just to recall, we did have $46,200 earmarked for this project. Staff is recommending staying within the $46,200 that is identified to be spent out of special highway, and accept the proposals from Dustin Hines Construction for project 1, which was the 27th and Augusta area, and project 3, which is the Elm Street project down by Lewis Field. These 2 recommended areas are the largest of the 4, as I mentioned, and are what we consider the highest priority with the most traffic. However, the commission could approve a different combination of projects if you so choose. So again, just a quick recap on the 2 projects. Project 1 at the top of your screen here, the West 27th Street, and then project 3 along Elm. So this will be the options presented. Like I say, those 2 projects 1 and 3, or like I said, any combination that you would wish to award. And this would be the action requested as recommended by staff.
I move we authorize the city manager to approve purchase orders to Dustin Hines Construction. I'm reading from 2 spots here. I think they say the same thing. Dustin Hines Construction LLC in the amount of $21,440 for the construction of sidewalk along 27th Street, and Morgan Brothers Construction Incorporated in the amount of $23,233.65 for sidewalk along Elm Street, all to be funded out of the special highway fund.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Comments?
Jesse, on the one on Elm Street, can we make sure that that is done before fall? Hopefully, we have Fort Hays football again, but it would be great if that was done before school started so that people can park along there for football games.
Right, and I believe on their bid, Morgan Brothers actually indicated they'd start in June. So yeah, we can definitely ensure they have it done well in advance of mid-August there when school starts back up for certain.
Great.
I appreciate the 2 that you chose because they really are the most walked areas of the 4 that we're talking about. And I know 27th Street has a lot of traffic, and I don't know as much about Elm, but I assume there's a lot of walking traffic down there with the university. So I appreciate choosing those 2.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, sir. Commissioner Millick?
All I've got tonight is I appreciate everybody that is following the CDC's recommendation, along with KDHE and Ellis County Health Department's recommendation as far as social distancing. We've been very fortunate here in Hayes that we have not had a confirmed case yet, but if everybody does their part, I think we'll come out of this pretty well unscathed. And you're not doing it just for yourself, you're doing it for your friends and neighbors and family. So thank you for those that are operating under those rules.
Commissioner Burgess?
I don't have anything further tonight.
Commissioner Reuter?
Echo what Commissioner Melick said. Continue to follow those guidelines and make sure you're doing it for others as well as your own families.
Just one comment on the successful sales tax election we Ellis County had. We all had our own opinion about whether it should or shouldn't pass. I think I said last week that I did vote for it, but I think the important thing is, in this whole piece, is what this community does in difficult times. I think a lot of people felt, including me, probably felt that this was a really tough time for them to take it to ballot, and the fact that it passed and passed so overwhelmingly in both areas speaks a lot about our community and what the expectation is. We understand that we are a great community. We want to continue to be that. So congratulations to the county on that. I also wanted to thank the city. The work's going wonderfully on 10th Street. I just went down there and looked again on the way down. It's about 2/3 bricked already. Looks terrific. Hopefully we'll have a market open May 2nd, but I'm not counting on it. I just heard today that the Overland Park Market is not one of the biggest and best known in the state, is not opening. So who knows? But I agree with Commissioner Melick. Boy, stay at home. Couple more weeks, if we can just do all the good things we've been done for this part, we may get through this. But I think the next 2 weeks will be very telling for our county as well. So don't get lax about it. Stay at home, please.
I think you read my notes.
I did.
You took all my comments, so. No, I also was down at 10th Street today. I think it's looking great. I think Morgan Brothers is doing a good job, like always, and hopefully they'll get that done in time. And not only for the farmers market, just all the events that we have downtown that will be done. It will look so much better. And as Commissioner Melick was saying, just thank you to the community, what you guys are doing to just be smart, to keep people healthy, and not only for yourself, but for your family. And, hopefully we'll get through this. It sounds like it's going to get tougher before it gets better, but we're doing a great job in Hayes so far. And just want to say Happy Easter to everyone and enjoy family virtual or however you do it. So we're adjourned.